One. Hey, everybody, it's Mark Pattison. I'm back with another great episode of Finding Your Summit, all about people overcoming adversity and finding their way. And as usual, before we get into today's just amazing guest, personal friend, I want to direct the attention to my website, www.markpattisonnfl.com. I do have a new link up. I'm trying to build my YouTube channel up. Please go and subscribe there. And the reason why we're trying to do that is that once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we can start redirecting funds that you can start making money on based on all the videos, based on all the things I've done on Mount Everest and the other 7 summits around the world, to the charity Higher Ground, which are trying to help empower and support others. Also on that site, you can also see my philanthropy tab, which all proceeds again go to Higher Ground. My campaign, A Million is Everest, continues to grow. And again, that's what we're all trying to do, is help others. That's how you pay it forward. And of course, please go in and give the show a ratings and review. It helps elevate the popularity of the show. And that is always important. And finally, there's a little red button, and you can push that and see the NFL film Searching for the Summit, which is now being submitted for an Emmy, and we'll see where that goes. So on that note, let's get to my great guest today. He's the one, the only, the Hall of Famer, Morten Andersen. Morten, how you doing?
Great to see you, Mark. Glad you're back safely from all your endeavors.
Yeah, man.
Got a little nervous when I, start talking about Everest and the death zone and snow blindness. And, I followed you a little bit out there, and I was just praying that you would get home safely.
Yeah, well, look, I say this sincerely. I say this honestly, that when I was coming up that mountain, and for everybody that doesn't know, Morten has a really good podcast called The Great Dane. Of course, Morten is Danish. That's where he was born, over in that part of the world in Copenhagen, and immigrated, if that's the right word, on a high school, exchange program at the time. And you went out because they were looking for a kicker, and because your soccer experience, one thing led to another, which led to a scholarship to Michigan State, which led to never leaving, going back to Europe, right? Yeah. But you do have this really wonderful podcast. You've got some amazing guests on there. But where I was going with that is when I was on your podcast and we were talking about coming down, I'd reached the summit of Mount Everest, and now I'm coming down off that peak, and all kinds of bad things were happening. I hadn't eaten. I'd been up there ultimately for 18 hours, and I'd been in a cyclone and snowplow and everything else. And I got to this one point right below the balcony, 27,500 feet, where everything was going wrong. And my Sherpa had left me at that point in time. I just was looking at this other mountain across the way, which I intended to go climb, Lhotse, 27,940 feet, to create the double. And I said to myself, if I go take that on, I'm going to for sure die. But more importantly, I literally had the time and the presence of mind, even though I was in a crazy space, to think about all these people, including my kids, that have supported me and that I know love me. I love them back. And one of those guys, as I was thinking about my NFL, was you. You and I were tight back then.
We were. We ran New Orleans, the Big Easy, pretty hard there for a couple of years, or a year anyway. We were single and mad, and it was fun. We had the parachute pants on, the headband, the eye maker, the eyeliner. Maybe I'm revealing too much, Mark, but
that's great.
It was great to have you. Let me say this so everybody knows: you were a great wingman. You were a fantastic wingman.
I was a very good one.
And I needed one. I needed Mark Daddy next to me, because there was trouble. There was
trouble. But that was all good times. That's all part of growing up and shaping our lives. And this ties into kind of the subject of the day. And I just want to like some quick highlights so everybody knows what we're talking about here when we're talking about Morten Andersen. You played 25 years in the NFL, which is insane, number one. Tom Brady is maybe something 24, maybe something like that.
I don't think he's there yet. He's maybe 21 or 20. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think he's 25. Yeah. So number one, we're talking about longevity. He got into the NFL in 1982 and it went to 2007. He played 382 games. As of this last time I checked, You were second in total points scored, which is insane. Yeah, it's just crazy. And then in 2017, which I want to talk to you more about today, you were inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which I'm so proud of you. I was so proud of you and your accomplishment in that. I'm actually a friend of yours, and we go way back, and always very, very loyal. Recently, unbelievable. Every Sunday night I tune in to 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes, they go through the intro, ... They go in the segment, ... Yep, they go through that, and all of a sudden, here's my friend Morten Andersen is about to be on 60 Minutes, and I was just like, oh shit, what did Morten do?
Yeah, you're right, because usually 60 Minutes, they come knocking at your door, and accusations are flying. Allegedly, right?
Yeah,
so
allegedly.
I didn't do anything, man.
Yeah,
they actually used me for historical perspective. Get that?
Yeah, well, it's okay, but you weren't on there. I was expecting sweat coming down your face, it'll denying something, right?
Yeah.
But just the opposite, and so kind of the theme of today. So I'll have you set this up, but let's talk about what my theme of the day is kind of mindset, and so people that are out there in all sorts of walks of life that are out doing whatever, either it's their passion project or what they do for work. And it's really trying to get inside of people who have been able to not just do it, but do it over such a long time. The arc is so, extraordinary that there has to be something more than just talent, right? So, so let's go back and just start with 60 Minutes and let's talk about what that segment was all about.
Yeah, so they had asked me to come on. They were doing a piece on the kicker, basically, the evolution of the kicker through time. And they had sort of taken Justin Tucker, the very, very fine young kicker in Baltimore Ravens, who's an all-pro, and right now is kicking at a very, very high level, has been for 10 years. So he was kind of like the guy that's, relevant today, who's doing it in the NFL. And so they started there, and then to lend some historical perspective to it and also get some, some wisdom, they called me and said, would you like to be part of this piece? And so I gladly accepted, because I think, number one, the kicker is misunderstood. Number two, he's underappreciated, underpaid. And if the purpose of the game really is to score more points than the opposing team, then how can you ignore the kicker? I mean, you look at leading scorers in the history of the game, and the first 20 spots is occupied by guys with a K after them. They're Jerry Rice is way down the list, okay? And he was a hell of a player, not belittling that. So I gladly accepted to give it some perspective and hopefully, kind of put my foot down in support of the position and to try to dispel some of these this myth that kickers are weird and you can find a kicker on any corner, any bar, and we're interchangeable. We're not. It's a position. When you get a guy that's really good, keep him. Treat him like gold. You want to have some consistency at that position. And my feeling was, and I may have mentioned this in the piece, it's that there's this misconception that we can just, and Buddy Ryan said it, he hated kickers. He said, well, if this guy doesn't work out, I'll just go get another guy on the corner. We play plenty of those guys. It's not. The good ones are very hard to come by. It's not just something that it has to be thought out. And, that position is extremely important. It wins you football games. It's the difference. If you have a good kicker, you're going to win at least 3 games a year on his foot, whether it's left or right foot. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you're going to lose 3. That's just the way it is. So it was a lot of fun to be part of. I wish they had given me a little more airtime. You talk for an hour and they show a minute and a half or 2 minutes, maybe, right? Yeah. So, but that's what it goes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the whole idea that there are kickers on every corner is somewhat true, But the real question is who's going to deliver the goods. I mean, when you and I played together for 2 years, and you constantly, you won us way more than 3 games a year. And if you take a look at the delta of what the typical point spread is, it's either -3 or +3 here or there. Yep. And it usually gets down to that field goal yep. kicker of whether how many points they can actually deliver, during that game. And the thing that I always thought was so fascinating about you, and I'd never seen it before. You're the first person, I don't know if you invented this or what, but I get there in 1987, and my first day out there, and the first thing of everything on that old field that we used to play on was that the goalposts were half the size.
They were 8 feet.
They were 8 feet. Is that what they were?
Yeah, that's what I made them. I made them 8 feet.
So
it's Schwarzkopf. The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. Norman Schwarzkopf.
I love that.
To make it difficult as you can make it, as distasteful and as real as you can make it, Monday through Saturday. That's the key. Because then on Sunday you have 18 feet 6 inches. It looks huge. It's like, oh my goodness, my perspective just changed. And I counted. I went through an exercise over my 25 years. Over 600 guys came and went trying to take my job.
Yeah.
Physically, probably as talented, most of them, as I was. But for one reason or another, when the lights came on Sunday afternoon, they couldn't transfer their practice habits. They couldn't transfer it to a game situation. They were just not, when the lights came on, for whatever reason, they couldn't recruit that dominant positive behavior. And then was my secret sauce. And it started, one example, the 8-foot goalpost, the perspective of making it difficult and always aiming for the middle, because the middle never changes. And never thinking about the parameters of the field goal. That's constant. What you have to do is you have to look at your workbench. We all have a workbench. You have a workbench when you're climbing mountains. You have certain things that are non-negotiable or you die.
Yeah.
For me, the moment of truth on that workbench, and when we start talking about, mental training and owning that skill, the moment of truth for a kicker is when the plant foot hits the ground. You're either right or wrong. You can't change it. Once you step and your weight is on that plant foot, you're either right or wrong. That's the moment of truth on the workbench. So I just gave a keynote about this to a big software company about, you define your workbench, you train your workbench, and then you own it. But it has to be in that order, and it has to be earned over time. Consistency, you're talking about the arc of excellence over time. That can only happen when you have the right habits and you have the right plan, you have the right goals that are not threatening, but they're specific. Goals are just like road signs. Any road can take you there, but it's important to understand that, the road to success is always under construction, and any road will take you there. But if you have goals that direct you in a motivational, positive way, then you have a chance. The NFL is result oriented, right, Mark? We knew that. Very result oriented. But I think when I shifted my thinking after I had a performance plateau in 1989, in 1990, I shifted my whole thinking and I stopped thinking about results. And I just started focusing on process and the quality of the process and my workbench and owning my workbench. And that was it. 2 things we control as athletes: effort and attitude, and everything else is white noise. I tell my young guys that. I tell my kids that, and they're tired of it. Here goes dad preaching again, but it's true. In the high performance business, which you operate in, certainly when you're climbing the highest mountains in the world and when you're doing all your entrepreneurial stuff, preparation is everything, man. Preparation is everything. And then trusting that your preparation is so great that you can let the game come to you. When we're young and we are full of youthful oblivion, we want to force ourselves on the game. I would imagine a young mountain climber would be more apt to force himself or herself on the mountain, try to conquer the mountain instead of letting the mountain come to him or her. Mm-hmm. It's the same with the game. when you train and you're well prepared, it allows you the freedom to step back and let the game come to you. And then when it does that, wherever you fit into the game, you get plugged in and you go right to work with effort and attitude, focusing on your workbench, the moment of truth, and you can pull the trigger freely and deliver at the highest level. That's the secret sauce.
And you certainly did that. And I've got this quote that I've been really paying attention to, and especially I think this really applies to you. Talent determines what you can do. Motivation determines how much you're willing to do.
Yeah.
Attitude, which is what you were just talking about, attitude determines how well you will do it.
Yeah.
Mindset, right?
Yeah. Well, the mindset, it is and it's not something, it has to start with intent. It has to start with a purposeful intent. I learned that from my grandmother, who was a midwife during the Second World War, and she delivered thousands of babies. I think in some way, her being part of that, the birthing process, and seeing new life being created and coming right in front of her eyes, made her a very, person with passion and energy, but also a person that really appreciated like intent, like living an intentful life, living a purposeful life. I think you talked about it on my pod about pivoting in your life when you were in a dark hole after football, and you were going through a hard time, you were going through a divorce, you were going through a lot of stuff, personal stuff that could have taken you in a whole different direction, but you decided to pivot with intent and purpose. And I think that's why you are where you are now. Yeah. The mindset.
There's no question. For you, what was your purpose? What was your intent? Like by the time I got there, you'd been kicking for the Saints for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so you were just kind of like, to me, you were just automatic, right? You just, pull it out and whack, you put it right down the center.
Yeah.
And so for you, like because you didn't have a family at that time, you weren't married at that time. Again, what were you like, what were you tapping into that was really your main driver?
Fear
of failure,
fear of failing, and fear of losing a job because of what I said earlier. The notion that you're 1 or 2 kicks away from being unemployed. So that, and then also a real desire to be as good as I could be, to be the best ever, to see how far I could go. But the first 7 years, from 82 to 89, I was winging it, just winging it, smoke and mirrors, talent. Yeah. There was no great off-season workouts. There was no paying attention to diet and off-season regimen. There was no structure. There was no writing down in a daily log. There was no performance feedback sheets. There was none of that. There was no video analysis that I dove into. I was just kind of winging it.
Yeah, that I would.
It worked for a while. It worked for a while.
It worked very well. I mean, shoot, you went to 6 Pro Bowls. I went to one of them with you, right?
That's right.
I was a very good wingman over there.
I was another great wingman in Hawaii, man.
Yeah. But the bottom line is that I don't think a lot of people. I mean, I was working out year round because maybe my motivation was even stronger than yours because I wasn't at the kind of level that you were with your kicker. So, it's all relative to your own circumstance, but however you slice it, that the key points you were just making is that was a time and that was a place where, like even growing up, and you and I are within a year or two of each other, even growing up, there wasn't select sports and there weren't Morten, you got to pick one, basketball, football, soccer, you got to pick one sport. You can't play all 3. We used to play all 3. You just rotated around to the sport. There wasn't off-season workouts. There wasn't this critical analysis that you're talking about. No. It just didn't exist, right?
A lot of guys had second jobs. They would go sell insurance and cars and whatever else in the off-season because the money wasn't that great yet. I mean, my first year salary was $40,000. My signing bonus was $42,500. Now Justin Tucker's making $6 million a year. I mean, it just wasn't, and I didn't have a second job. I was just at the beginning of where money got a little better. But the guys that came before me, like a Derlin Moore, who was a first-round pick, made $22,000.
That's insane.
It's a first-round pick.
Yeah, I had Rocky Blyer on many podcasts ago, and
Yeah, he's great.
He was,
Great.
yeah, he's great. It was similar type of deal, right? Where, he was during the season, he was playing 17 games and made, $14,000 and then also sold cars or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
seriously, this is Rocky Blyer.
Yeah.
But
No,
that's
how it went down. I mean, that's what you had to do. And so we didn't have to do that. I think we were just at the beginning of, went through a strike in 82 for the benefits parts, the pension, and then another strike in 87 for free agency, that was crucial. That was Reggie White against the NFL, right? And we were able to get free agency, and then the salary cap came. And the reason that I got let go by the Saints was literally in the very one or two first years of the salary cap. Then nobody understood how to administer it. And Jim Finks died, and next thing I know, I was a declining player according to the Saints, and they wanted to cut my salary 40%. And so that forced my hand over to Atlanta.
Well, that may have been, and that's actually what happened. But I can tell you, knowing head coach Jim Moore, who was our coach at the time, that was his biggest regret of all the players he ever dealt with. The biggest regret is letting you go. And
yeah, we've talked about it. I've talked to him about it. We're good.
Yeah,
good. Him and I are good.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's, and he and I are good too. It is it's just the unfortunate reality. Going back to the first point that we started talking about is the value that some coaches or players or general managers or management people in the NFL or college place on the value of kickers, right?
Well, it was a stereotype, right? They saw my salary was $1 million and said, we can't have a kicker making $1 million. Yeah. Why the hell not? Yeah. If the kicker is one of the best in the league, you should. Yeah. And you should probably pay him that. Oh no, we got to take him to 600,000. Yeah. Not so fast, my friends.
Yeah.
Well, out of here, right? So that's the way it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is
water under the bridge. Yeah.
It is. I want to talk to you. I can see the bust, I think, of your head from the Hall of Fame. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And so I was really blown away because number one, you always deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but I think more than that, it was a little bit, the metaphor of me climbing Mount Everest for just your position, take you out of it. It was a Mount Everest, unbelievable achievement to be chosen just because there'd only been one other kicker, I think, in the history.
Jan Stenerud.
Jan Stenerud, who'd been inducted in the Hall of Fame. And just, I don't know why, they haven't valued that. But the bottom line is they did, and the right forces all came together. And you got, so tell me what again, like going through 25 years of playing in the NFL, and then you get the call, and that call comes, and now they're saying, hey, Morten, look, you're going to get the Willy Wonka ticket and you get to go to Canton, right?
Yeah. Well, it took 5 years, right? It took 5 years of being a semifinalist my first year. You have to be retired 5 years out of the NFL.
Okay.
And then you become eligible. And it is an ominous process. Then anybody can write a letter to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and nominate anybody who has ever played in the NFL. So that's where it starts, with 120, 30, 40 people. And that gets whittled down pretty quickly through preliminary lists, okay? And then you get to November and you have 25 semifinalists. And through each voting round, you have to get 80% of the vote. I think there's 46 voters, all journalists. There's a couple of Hall of Fame members in there, 3 now, I think. I think it's Tony Dungy, Dan Fouts, and Lofton, the receiver. James Lofton.
Yeah, I played with him.
Those are the 3 Hall of Famers that have a vote. Everybody else is a journalist from different markets. A few are at large, the Peter Kings of the world and so forth. 80%, you got to get it in every voting round. If you don't, you're out. Very simple. So the 25, they just cut to 15. So now you have 15 modern day. So I was a finalist for, a semifinalist my first year, didn't make the finalist. Next year I made the finals, but I got cut from 15 to 10 because they also go from 15 to 10, from 10 to 5. And then the 5 they have that still has to get 80%. So it's just a brutal process. Yeah. And so I'm out, year 2 gone. Year 3, I make it to the top 10. No, I think I'm out again right away from 15 to 10. And the 4th year, or the 5th year, I'm a finalist again, and then I make it that year. And they don't tell you by how much you make it. It's basically a phone call, and you're sequestered in the room. You get a phone call, and the phone call you don't want to get, because we regret to inform you didn't make it. You get on the loser bus.
Yeah.
The winners are getting in limos with champagne.
And by the way, I'm on that bus that you just talked about.
No, you're not. You're not. You're on a winner. You're a winner, man. You're a winner's bus.
Okay.
Well, then I get the knock on the door. Well, the year before, so I want to tell the funny story was that my wife had ordered room service in San Francisco when I was a finalist.
Yeah. And
I get the knock on the door when we're sequestered. So my hands go flying up, and I'm like, honey, I'm in. I run to the door, and this poor soul, poor room service guy's got a club sandwich for my wife. She had forgotten to tell me that she had ordered room service. I go, honey, you can't do that anymore. Yeah. No room service from 3 to 5. Yeah. And then the following year in Houston, I did get the knock from David Baker. It was like the Marines were coming through the door, and it was emotional, obviously.
Yeah.
I ran the numbers, Mark. I ran the numbers.
Yeah.
And so 27,000 people have played in the NFL over the years at some level. They've coached it, played it, administered it. Millions have played it. If you take every level, millions. Yeah. But 27,000 plus have played it and gotten paid for it. 2 guys, Jan Stenner and myself, 2 specialists out of those 27,000 plus, in the Hall of Fame. I ran the numbers. I would have had a better chance of getting hit by lightning than making it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, being a kicker and that journey. So anytime thunderclouds come, man, I stand right out there.
Well, yeah, you could break that down further and just say, take the kicker part out of it. Because I'm I'm in the 27,000, right?
Yes, you are.
So I checked the box of high school, the Hall of Fame in the high school, checked the box of college Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah. Your percentages are minute.
Yeah. I mean, I'm now.
Be proud of that. Be proud of that.
No, I'm just talking about, making it past the 1.3, whatever year average, for anybody. So to be in that group and be blessed to play around guys like yourself, was a dream come true. Right. And then when you take it to your level, it's just a whole nother set. So I want to ask you about David Baker. So people who've watched ESPN, because they usually do a pretty good job, ESPN covering this, but the NFL has this one guy, and I'm assuming
he retired now. He retired.
So
David retired. So the Pro Football Hall of Fame is different than the NFL. Right. Pro Football Hall of Fame is actually a 501c3 nonprofit. The NFL supports it, but has no decision-making, responsibility with the Hall. Pro Football Hall of Fame is an independent 501c3. Yeah.
And how many total players have been inducted into the Hall of Fame?
That's a good question. I don't know exact number. I want to say maybe between 350 and 370, I think. And then the living is under 200. Yeah, that are living now. We're losing guys all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a short list. And to have David, did he phone you or did he show up at your house?
Show up at the door. No, he show up at the hotel that you stay, in the Super Bowl city.
Yeah.
Knock on your hotel door. Yeah. And give you the news right there. And then you're going on the NFL Honors Show that evening.
Wow.
So it's Saturday before the Super Bowl. The inductees find out.
Yeah.
It's a long process, man. It's brutal.
So now they, you get up there and there's this big relief and you get this amazing honor and now the next big thing. So you get honored there of just, these are going to be, but that the actual induction, the big, amazing speeches, many of which are very emotional because guys are tapping back into when they were nothing.
Sure.
And we've all been there, right? And it's that grit, that determination, that perseverance, all those different things that you need to go accomplish amazing achievements. Like you finally get your turn. I was watching you, but tell me what that was like for you getting in front of all those people that are there to celebrate the guys who are now being inducted.
Yeah, it was extremely gratifying because it's impossible to take that journey by yourself. It really is. And I think that resonates with all the guys when they stand up there. You get a certain amount of humility that comes over you. And perspective, I think, of man, I had so much help from guys, including yourself,
Yeah.
whether it was a teammate or a coach or a family member, a wife, a spouse, or your kids that motivated you, or a teacher, in elementary school. We see it could be a boys and girls club advisor that helped one of these guys. That was not the case for me. It was my high school coach. If my high school coach doesn't ask me to come out for the high school team, I'm not in Canton, Ohio. If I don't have a great trainer in Keith Elmore, who pushed me for 20 months in a public park in 2005 when I was 45 years old to stay in shape because the phone wasn't ringing. And then Jim Moore Jr. finally did call and say, I need you, come in and help me, help my team. But if I'm not ready for those 20 months in that public park, and if I haven't taken that, embraced that world of suck that it is to be humiliated, really. I played 23 years and now I can't get a job all of a sudden. And everybody's saying, hey, you had a good run, Morten. Maybe it's time to do something else. And then I'm able to come back 77 points later, become the all-time leading scorer. If that doesn't happen, this bust doesn't happen. The gold jacket doesn't happen. The Hall of Fame doesn't happen, in my opinion. So there's so many things that floods over you when you stand on that stage. And I think humility, gratitude, gratitude for the help that you got and the opportunities you got. And thank God that you were smart, that you had a little bit of wisdom to get on the train when I was leaving the station. Because the worst feeling would be, oh man, coulda, shoulda, woulda, shoulda, should have risked it. Because let's face it, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, everything that is popular and makes you a lot of money and is perceived as being a good job, everybody wants those jobs. Everybody wants to play in the NFL if they could, but not everybody can. Everybody wants to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but not everybody gets to do that. So to get on that train when this defining moment comes in your life, I think is so important. And when we're young, sometimes we just don't know that this train is leaving. And if you don't get on it, the next train go on a different station for sure. And, may not be as nice, so that's, to me, when I got in high school, when I say, yeah, I'm in, I don't know if I can hit this oval ball. It's not round, but I'm in. I'm willing to try. I'm willing to fail forward. I'm willing to crush it and let's see what goes. So I'm so thankful for that courage, if you will.
Yeah, no, I think it does take courage, and it also takes you stepping in to something you haven't done before. And you just talked about having an attitude of gratitude for so many different people that helped you along the way. And it's interesting because I've always thought about this word potential, right? Hey, that kid has a lot of potential. And a lot of times people talk about it in a very favorable way. Hey, look at that basketball player. Look how high he can jump. Boy, he's got a lot of potential. But the potential is just really talking about a ceiling that somebody has, right? And what you're basically saying is that we see some elements, some characteristics that this person has a lot of talent, but they've got all there's gap between where they are to where they maybe could be someday to be, the best version of themselves. And the greatest crime is when people don't take that opportunity.
They don't apply it. Applied potential.
Yes.
You must apply a great desire. You must apply energy into the process. That's why the process is the most important thing. The quality of the process, not the result. Potential is basically us saying, if he or she reaches that is the result. But it shifts the focus away from what's more important, which is actually the doing part. The doing part, the earning the right to have that potential realized. Unrealized potential is tragic.
It's tragic. And, the thing, I want to hone in on a point. I talk a lot about John Wooden and his pyramid of success.
Yes.
And at the very tippy top of that pyramid is called competitive greatness. And competitive greatness, all this means is that you better flip and love what you do, because you're not going to potentially fill your full potential. But there's going to be all these different things that come up and you're going to quit and you're going to zigzag and you're not going to follow the path that you were led and that you should be going after. And that's, that was an incredible thing. Not a lot of people know this about you. I know it because I was there. I happened to be down in Atlanta when you kicked that kick. I think it was against Pittsburgh, in overtime, to win the game. And it was just such an amazing moment at that time. But I was on the sideline with my buddy Tiger, and we were teary because I knew what you had gone through, and to be out in now you're in the Hall of Fame, and you're in some XYZ park in the middle of Atlanta or wherever you're living at the time.
Oh yeah,
you're out there kicking, with high school guys.
Mark, I'm deferring the field to little leaguers when they needed the field because I didn't have access to the field. I was trespassing.
Yeah, you had no juice.
Zero.
Yeah.
I got my outfit on. I got my Kenny Staples shoulder pads, my Saints helmet, my Falcons jersey, my New York Giants football pants. I played in, because I practiced like I played in the gear. I looked freaking ridiculous. And here comes these bobbleheads, and they need the field. And guess what? Guess who's out of there? I'm out of there.
Yeah. Well,
talk about humility, man.
Yeah, no, I can sense it, and that's what makes this story so great. And then it goes back to mindset, because your will and your purpose and your drive were stronger than your letting your ego get in the way of saying I look like a clown or something out here, and I don't even deserve to be on this field. They have.
I never said that.
Well, I'm saying, I'm not saying deserve, but you didn't have, it wasn't your field. It was somebody else's field that you were just, stepping on, and somebody else had to clock time to be out there. So, it's what makes that ultimate victory, the yellow jacket, the permanent bust in
gold jacket, Ohio, please.
Gold jacket. Sorry. The bust that you have behind you, that's what it makes that fruit so sweet, is because of the hard work that you did to put yourself in that position to ultimately fulfill your potential and being the best version of yourself as a kicker.
Yeah, there was one place I wanted to be, Mark, as long as I could, as consistently as I could, and it totally relates to what you just mentioned about competitive greatness and that top of the pyramid of John Wooden's pyramid. Because if you take competitive greatness, you can put equals unconscious competence on a personal level. So as a performer, if you're able to go through the 4 stages of learning, from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence to conscious competence to unconscious competence, the highest level of learning. When you can do it at 4 a.m. and get the sleep out of your eye, and Mark, you're going to say, kick me a 42-yarder from the right hash on these 8-foot goalposts, and I can go out and I can recruit that. That's where I wanted to get. That's where I wanted to get from 1990 when I had my performance plateau, when you either get better or worse. Okay. And I was definitely getting a little worse. So that's when I made a drastic change to my team Anderson, and I hired Mackie Shilstone, and I hired a sports psychologist, and I hired a nutritionist, and then I hired a massage therapist and a chiropractor, and went to work and saw it would. And it extended my career from, I was in my 9th year at the time, going into my 10th year, something like that. It extended my career, so I was able to play for 25 years, because I remember like Mackie saying, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I said, ultimately blue sky, love to still be playing at a high level. He said, if you want to do that, then this is what we have to do. We have to change some things. And that's when I made that really proactive, intentful choice to change my habits and change the way I trained. From January to June, Mark, I didn't kick a field. I didn't put foot to ball. I did all muscle memory stuff. I did the medicine balls. I did the bands. I would swing the leg. I would do a lot of core strength, but I never put foot to ball. So when I got to June, I was jonesing to go. I was ready, man. Give me a football. Let's go. Yeah. And, that really helped. But it was all about owning it at the highest level, so I could recruit that dominant positive behavior every time. Swing the leg, hit the ball correctly, vertical ball flight, down the target line, right in the middle, again and again, under great duress, under great perceived pressure. And people say, oh, don't you feel pressure when it's a game winner and they try to ice you? Number one, you can't ice.
Yeah.
But number two, if you own it to a point where you can freely plug yourself into the game, to my earlier point,
Yeah.
then some special things can happen on the field, and that's why ultimately I wanted to go. And not everybody can do it, because not everybody is willing to earn the right to do it. You earn the right to play Sunday afternoon during the week, in the off season, in a public park for 20 months. I can go on and on about this stuff.
Well, as I'm listening to this too, there's a lot of similarities, not only with you and Tom Brady, but the thing that I always take, Tom is obviously a phenomenal player, and he's been able to have been at this high level for such a long time. But I think the reason for a lot of his success is all the things that he does, not on the field, but off the field. The same thing you were just talking about, the massage therapist and the guys, a different type of training and always trying to get better and find a different edge, his nutrition, all this kind of stuff. He can afford it, obviously, but he's made that investment into himself. It's Tom Brady Inc. that he's trying to make a better machine.
Team Brady, Team Anderson, Team Pattison, whatever you want to call it. We all need that. And I think that therein lies the great takeaway, really, from this conversation you and I are having, is everyone out there listening can do this. Create their own team.
Yeah.
It's your journey, it's your process. Own it, because then you will own the result and you'll be proud of the result.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. All right. So let me ask you this as we slide into home plate here.
Exactly.
Tell me what Morten Andersen is doing today. You've got this fantastic podcast we talked about earlier.
Immerse myself, Great Dane Nation. It's actually is the the name of it, and I've been doing that. We're doing our 72nd show this week.
That is awesome.
So I know you have a lot more than I do, but you've been at it a lot longer.
Yeah.
But I'm learning a lot. It's a wonderful process. Again, go back to that, and then really what it is. Are we a great podcast? I think it's content driven, and so I'm used to being interviewed. So it's been very, very interesting to have to learn how to ask questions and to listen, and to interview these high profile people. And you look at our list. I just had Bob Costas on. I've had the great Mark Pattison, who just climbed to 7 summits. Hello, who has an Emmy nominated film about him. Come on, this is high end stuff. I've had Dick Butkus on, Joe Namath, Archie Manning, and the guests just keep coming. Jim Nance, Charles Barkley, Bill Murray. And the thing that blows me a little bit away is that I have no, official training in this, but I'm not intimidated. I feel like it's just two buds talking, two athletes sitting in the locker room talking. And that's what I try to tell these guys. I'm not here to get you. I'm not here to go, aha, gotcha. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in them being vulnerable and telling me things they won't tell anybody else. And understanding that I'm going to protect them and protect their brand and protect that choice they make to talk to me in a vulnerable way and expose themselves. That's pure broadcasting gold to me. That's all I'm looking for. So I love doing that. Then I do some keynote speaking. I did my first keynote on the Zoom here the other day. That was different.
Yeah, I know.
On Microsoft Teams.
Yeah. That
was different. There's hundreds of people out there because you can see the numbers,
But you don't see them.
But you don't see them.
Yeah.
So it was very surreal to do. Very weird to do that, man.
Yeah, I've got another one coming up at the end of the month. So it is surreal and it's crazy. But listen, buddy, I'll let you go. You've been super generous with your time. You're a wonderful friend. You're a Hall of Famer. You're,
back at you, brother. Back at you. Yeah,
no, you're just an amazing guy. So I will catch you at the Super Bowl, and we will make that happen.
Let's figure it out. I'll come to Manhattan Beach, or we'll figure it out. I do have an extra ticket to a good party Thursday night if you want to go.
Yeah, we'll talk about that offline. So we get in trouble again. All right, buddy. There it is. The one, the only Morten Andersen.
Mark Pattison in the house.
All right.